All right, folks, we need to talk about what's developing right now because storm number 1 is still hammering parts of the country. But here's the thing. This is just the opening act. Old man winter is digging in his heels and storm number 2 is already on the radar for next weekend, with an entire pattern shift that could bring snow to the south and east through early March. We're talking about multiple Arctic blasts, historic cold that's going to stick around for weeks, and a setup that looks remarkably favorable for additional winter storms. Drop your city or region in the comments below, and I'll give you the specific outlook for your area as this pattern develops. Now let me start by breaking down the current storm that's been absolutely devastating parts of the country with over an inch of ice in spots. Mississippi, Louisiana, and Tennessee have seen catastrophic ice accumulation, with images flooding social media showing trees completely coated and leaning over. We've even had confirmed tornadoes in parts of the South, which shows you just how dynamic and powerful this system has been. The combination of heavy snow, destructive ice, wind damage, and severe weather all happening at the same time is honestly pretty remarkable. Now here in North Carolina, we got hammered by heavy sleet this afternoon, with about 1.5 inches of sleet mixed with freezing rain. Power outages are widespread across multiple states now, with the Carolinas, Virginia, and West Virginia all seeing significant ice and wind damage. What's particularly interesting about this storm is how well the Google Weather Next AI model nailed this forecast from about a week out. While other models were showing big snow across the south, Google Weather Next locked in on this mixed situation and ice storm setup early. I'm bringing this up because we're going to look at what that same model is showing for next weekend, and it's definitely got our attention. The Northeast is getting absolutely pounded right now with snow coming down at 1 to 2 inches per hour in some locations. Boston and much of New England are looking at another 12 to 16 inches of snow still to come through tonight and tomorrow. This is on top of what's already fallen, and some spots are going to end up with around 2 feet of total accumulation when all is said and done. Long Island has transitioned to sleet, but heavy snow continues to pile up quickly across interior New England right now. Ohio, Indiana, and Pennsylvania have seen incredible snow totals, with many areas picking up 10 to 15 inches or even more in spots. Cincinnati and southern Indiana actually overperformed significantly with 16 to 17 inches of snow, which is pretty impressive. Now let me give you city-by-city details so you know exactly what to expect as this current storm winds down and the brutal cold moves in. For Boston and New England, you're still in the thick of it right now with heavy snow continuing through tonight and possibly into tomorrow morning. New York City and Philadelphia have transitioned to sleet and freezing rain, which is cutting down on snow totals but creating icy conditions. Washington, D.C. and Baltimore ended up with more mixing than expected, so the all-snow scenario didn't quite work out this time. But here's the good news for you guys. That may change with the next storm we're watching for next weekend. Charlotte and the North Carolina Piedmont got hit hard by sleet and freezing rain, though ice accumulation wasn't quite as bad as feared. The Triad area, including Greensboro, saw significant mixing, and ice storm warnings remain in effect for the upstate of South Carolina. Atlanta and northern Georgia are dealing with ice concerns tonight as temperatures drop back below freezing after the storm. Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana unfortunately were not as lucky, with devastating ice accumulation causing widespread power outages. Nashville in particular has been absolutely hammered, and it's going to be a very rough couple of days for folks without power as brutal cold moves in. Speaking of that brutal cold, this is where things get really concerning because extreme cold weather is moving in right behind this storm. We're talking about temperatures dropping to single digits across the south, with wind chills potentially reaching 30 to 40 degrees below zero in the northern plains. For people who've lost power in Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana, this is genuinely dangerous with temperatures this cold. Bundle up, check on elderly neighbors and family members, and if you're without heat, locate your nearest warming shelter immediately. Now here's what makes the long-range pattern so interesting. We're getting blasted with one Arctic shot after another over the next several weeks. The European ensemble shows Arctic blast after Arctic blast coming in as we head into early next week and approach midweek. Another blast keeps us cold, well below normal across the central and eastern United States as we get into the first week of February. This persistent cold is actually setting the stage for what could potentially develop in the Gulf and travel up the East Coast next weekend. Now let me show you what the models are indicating for that potential storm system around February 1st and 2nd. The GFS ensemble doesn't show much of a signal, with only 2 or 3 low pressure centers off the coast, which isn't very strong. But here's where it gets interesting. The European ensemble is showing significantly more development with multiple lows clustering off the southeast coast. The European AI ensemble, which has been performing really well lately, shows even more of a signal down here in the southeast. And the Google Weather Next model that absolutely nailed this current storm is also showing a system developing for next weekend. When you start seeing multiple good models converging on a similar solution this far out, that's when we really start paying attention. Now, let me explain the pattern that's setting up, because this is critical to understanding why next weekend looks favorable for a winter storm. Looking at the jet stream configuration, the Pacific jet is pointing down toward the equator instead of flooding the continent with warm air. This allows a ridge to build over the west coast, while cold air builds in from Canada, which is exactly the east, which is indicative of a storm threat. The pattern shaping up is fairly favorable for a south and east winter storm threat, and several models are reflecting that. The European operational model is getting a storm system together off the coast, though it's currently showing it pretty far suppressed. Here's the thing though, when you see a system suppressed far south 7 to 10 days out, it usually works back northwest with time. If I'm in the southeast looking for a winter storm, I actually want to see it suppressed as far south as possible initially. The European AI ensemble is showing a 3-day snowfall forecast with 2 inches or more back in the Carolinas and up the East Coast. That's a really good signal for something happening, some winter weather mischief as we get into next weekend. The traditional European ensemble also has a signal, which is a pretty good sign when multiple ensemble systems agree. Now, what we're hoping for is what meteorologists call a Miller A storm, which forms down in the Gulf and tracks up the coast. This type of storm gives everybody along the coast a better chance at snow versus a Miller B that reforms and brings in warm air. The Google Weather Next model is also showing snow down in North Carolina working up the East Coast for next weekend. Given how well that model performed with this current storm, we're definitely paying close attention to what it's showing now. Now let me talk about the extended pattern, because this is honestly pretty remarkable when you look at how it's setting up. The European extended forecast shows cold and potentially stormy conditions persisting all the way through early March. We've got blocking in Canada suppressing the storm track to the south, with plenty of cold air available for winter weather. This is a really good looking pattern if you're looking for East Coast winter storms, even potentially in the central and southern portions at times. The ridging along the west coast with troughing across the east persists basically through the end of February into early March. Looking at the temperature profile at 850 millibars, which is a good proxy for surface temperatures, it's remarkably cold. You can't find a 7-day period that's above normal anywhere in the east through this entire extended forecast. The best we can do is get back to normal over a 7-day period in late February or early March. Actually, if you look at the daily increments, it's getting even colder by the time we get to the end of the run. Now, I'm not forecasting specific storms weeks out, but this shows you the potential of the pattern we're locked into. The European control run shows significant snow accumulation potential across parts of the southern and southern United States up the East Coast. Again, this isn't a specific forecast, but it demonstrates that the pattern is favorable for multiple opportunities for winter weather. Let me give you specific city outlooks for next weekend's potential storm so you know what areas we're watching most closely. For Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, this setup actually looks better for you than the current storm, with a better chance of staying all snow. The Carolinas, including Charlotte, Raleigh, and Greensboro, are definitely in the zone we're watching for potential snow accumulation. Atlanta and northern Georgia, if this storm materializes, you could be looking at your first significant snow of the season. Tennessee and Kentucky are also in play depending on exact track, though some areas could see more mixing than others. The Northeast, including Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, would likely see impacts if this system develops and tracks up the coast. Now, before we get too excited, I want to emphasize that we're still 7 to 8 days out from this potential system. A lot can and will change between now and next weekend, but the signal is strong enough that we need to be watching it closely. There's also a small Clipper-type system that could bring light snow to Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Carolinas midweek. That's not expected to be a big deal, but it could drop a quick inch or two in some areas as it moves through. The main event we're watching is definitely that potential coastal storm for next weekend around February 1st and 2nd. Now let me talk about what you should be doing to prepare for this ongoing pattern of cold and potential additional winter weather. If you're in an area that got hit hard by this current storm, focus right now on staying warm and safe through this dangerous cold. For those without power, hypothermia can set in really quickly in temperatures this cold. So locate warming shelters if you need them. Check on elderly neighbors, family members, and anyone who might be vulnerable in these extreme conditions. Stock up on essentials now while stores are open, because if we do get another storm next weekend, supplies could run low again. Make sure you have non-perishable food, water, batteries, flashlights, and any medications you need for at least a week. If you have a generator, make sure it's ready to go and you have adequate fuel stored safely outside your home. For those of you in the potential impact zone for next weekend, start thinking about preparations, but don't panic buy just yet. We'll have much better clarity on this system by Wednesday or Thursday as it gets within the 5-day forecast window. The key is being prepared but not overreacting to something that's still a week away and could easily change. Now, looking beyond next weekend, the overall pattern suggests we could see multiple opportunities for winter weather through early March. This isn't just one storm we're watching. It's an entire pattern shift that favors cold temperatures and storm chances. The blocking pattern in Canada, the ridge over the west coast, and the active southern branch of the jet stream all favor winter weather. We could be looking at a cold finish to winter with multiple storm opportunities, especially along the East Coast. Drop your city in the comments again and let me know if you're hoping for more snow or if you've had enough already. I'll be monitoring the models closely every day and providing updates as we get better clarity on next weekend's potential storm. If you found this forecast helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss daily updates on this developing pattern. We'll have another video tomorrow breaking down the latest model runs and how the signal is evolving for next weekend. The bottom line is this: the current storm is winding down, but the pattern is setting up for potentially weeks of cold and additional winter weather chances. Stay safe through this dangerous cold, keep an eye on the forecast, and be ready for what could be an active finish to winter. We'll see you in the next forecast with all the latest on this developing winter weather pattern.